Welcome to my channel, and let me present you results of my coloring June. I can't believe that the first month of summer is already over. Time runs so quickly. Maybe let's start from my colorings in the books with bad paper. Once again, I returned to the Year of Witches by Ohuhu, mostly because I saw on Instagram several lovely pictures finished by other colorists, so I decided to give this book another chance, maybe 10th time, because you know that I moan about quality of this paper constantly. I usually do one project, I regret working on this paper, I put it on the shelf, and then after some time I try to give it another chance. The same thing here. I decided to do something nice and quick and to test myself. Do I gather some new skills to work on bad paper? But sorry, the same shit. Sorry for my language, but that's the only thing I can say about this paper. As usual, I tried to do background with markers. It's quicker and it's easier rather than to suffer on the whole page with pencils. So background, it's Ohuhu markers. They worked relatively well for this rainy background, and where I wasn't happy, I tried to mask it with huge amount of rainbow with raindrops created by white Posca. Main image is polychromasis. They work acceptable on this paper, but still, when you work on the thin paper, you feel like you can tear it with your pencil. Not big amount of pleasure, but in such way, very slowly with big breaks, I still can fill in this book because I realized that I simply don't want to drop it completely because of the huge amount of finished pictures here. Each time I enjoy doing the main image, and when background starts, that's where starts my suffering. Some of the backgrounds I managed to do normally when they don't have huge empty areas. Some I managed to mask using other art supplies on top of markers, because markers don't blend very well on this paper, so each time I need to mask those blending areas. I remember many areas where I have those ugly stains from markers. But anyway, this simple and quick work I added in June, and now I think that it will wait until October and November when we usually color witches, so there will be another chance for this book. Another book with great art, but again on bad paper, it's Kolorowanka, and somehow recently when I take this book, I usually concentrate on the Egypt part of it. My previous work several months ago was Isis, and this time I did Sekhmet. Actually, how many pictures I think I still need to do? Definitely this one. And I think that in such a way my Egypt part will be finished. Yes, that's the last one which I need to do in the part dedicated to Egyptian mythology and goddesses. So this time I did Sekhmet. As usual, Ohuhu markers to do this quick background, thanks to many shades of gray, gray-brown, beige, yellow colors. It's usually quite easy to do backgrounds here, much quicker comparing to those pictures where I did background with pencils, especially suffering on this bad paper. Here I can use both Prismacolors and polychromasis, so usually I select the brand depending from the picture. Sometimes I prefer to do gold with Prismacolors. They look more vibrant on this paper. Well, here I think that maybe the only thing where I could do some changes, it's maybe too colorful background. It distracts attention from the lady, and I'm not sure that I did good lion's head. But the goddess herself, I think that on this paper I managed to do quite a nice work. With my limited skills to color faces, especially when it's not very light fair skin and something darker, I still struggle a lot. So I think that I managed to do it quite nice. At least I don't have ugly pencil strokes on her face, on her arms, so at least I managed to blend pencils. So I think that it's lovely. Maybe Isis still is my favorite in this part, but Sekhmet definitely takes second place among my favorites. After a long time, I finally did something in Australian animals, and again, main problem is paper. But you know what? I discovered that my set of Derwent color softs, set which I usually use maybe once in several months and mostly for Emily Lindehall Oberg books, because there they behave quite well. They were quite helpful also to do part of the first layer of the fur here. So I did this platypus, and first layer on its fur I did with Derwent color softs. Yes, it's not very easy to burnish, to blend on this paper, but I combined softer and harder pencils. Creamy color softs help me to put basic colors on the fur, and then with polychromasis I managed to deepen shadows, to work on the smaller details, to add some texture. And surprisingly, another pencils which I managed to use here, it's Black Widow Monarch. I love this set because it definitely has unique colors, especially pastel light shades, which I quite often need, especially when I use my polychromasis. I need also some pastel colors. And yes, they also were quite helpful. I use them in small amount for most highlighted parts on the fur, also on the face. So I think that by combining softer, harder, oil-based, wax-based pencils, it's possible to work on this paper. But again, it's just lesser pleasure comparing to pleasure when you work on decent paper where you can use also watercolors. For example, here we have watercolor. Water around the platypus, and it would be probably much more beautiful if I could use watercolors here, but with such paper my only chance was to use Ohuhu markers. I selected several shades of blue-green. I think that in the end it worked well. It was excessive amount of blue lines, but I managed to mask them using a white gouache. So good work, mostly because I love how I did its fur. It has those shiny areas where we can see nice shining on the fur, and I do love color combo. As usual, I used reference pictures, one where I could see those colors on the face. I actually was surprised that we have also some areas of pink. It really helped me to extend my color palette when I looked at reference pictures, and then to look at the body, at colors we can find on fur. So reference pictures are really very helpful. Actually, in this month I did many pictures with animals, and I think that it's a good thing. I would love to practice more during summer in coloring various birds and animals. I worked a little bit in Urban Anna coloring book about shop fronts. I usually take this book when I want to switch from Prismacolors, polychromasis, when I want to work with water-soluble media. Well, maybe I'm still a little bit of coward to work here with watercolor paints, but I enjoy working here with Inktense and other water-soluble pencils like Kohinoor Mondeluz, like Graphitins, but Inktense are still my main set here. Let me show you what I did. This patisserie were, well, maybe I darkened it too much. Here I think that I was maybe too carried away by blending Inktense together with Graphitins. And I discovered that actually thing which I never loved, copying the original art, in this book I really enjoy. It helps me to learn better my art supplies, possibilities of working with Graphitins and Inktense, and it helps me to learn better mixing, shading with such pencils. But honestly, my second work here I love a little bit more. Paper is great for water-soluble pencils. It's really a pleasure. When you start to apply water, I absolutely love how pigment behave on this paper. So yeah, it's a big difference comparing to previous books. So I selected this interesting, unusual design, this Chinese restaurant. If you have Inktense pencils, you can definitely recognize their madder brown, this quite unique shade. I think that it's quite similar to their original art, and it was quite fun to do it. Very pleasurable, very easy coloring when you concentrate only on the process. You don't have to think about color selection. Artist already did it for you. So when I need to relax and just feel pleasure from working on good paper, I can take this book. Of course, summer it's time for coloring flowers, and I did one but quite nice page in my set of Cecily Mary Baker Flower Fairies set. And here I have this nasturtium. Sorry, probably my pronunciation is awful, but it's very difficult. Here I tried to do some interesting shading both on the background. I wanted this gradient from lighter to more intense gray for the background, and then also here between leaves I added moss green, I added slightly brownish tints to deepen this part of the background so it won't look flat. That I wanted some depth and interesting shading on the bottom part. I still learn how to work with Prismacolors on this paper. Some pencils, they don't give you the vibrantness you are accustomed to, like I don't know, but my eggshell usually creates some dirty colors here, but some colors like gray green light, pale sage or white light blue colors, they are glowing on this craft paper, so it's such an interesting effect, very different from working on white paper. That's why I enjoy working on this set. And I love the nasturtium. I tried to make colors, to make flowers with slightly different color palette, more yellow, more orange red. So for me it's definitely one of the best works, together with the irises. That's two of my favorites which I finished so far. I hope to continue working on it. At least one page in a month, I think that it's a good plan. Unfortunately, the next flower coloring didn't work as expected, as I planned, because I selected wrong art supplies. In May, I did here one page using budget pencils. Well, I did page with Sucolor pencils somewhere here. That's Sucolor and Arteza. They worked quite well. It was a good change from my more professional pencils. So I decided that maybe I need to give a chance to my other budget sets. I selected page with quite simple design, but I selected Star Joy Gold pencils, and it wasn't the wise choice. They have lovely light colors. They can work in one layer, so I love to use them for the background in this book. But when you need to get more intense, more deep colors, it could be a problem. I realized it when I started to do leaves, when I wanted to deepen shadows here, and it wasn't possible because of the limited colors and because of the waxy feeling from the Star Joy Gold pencils. I never believed that they are actually oil-based. Well, sorry. So, somewhere in the process, I started to add pencils from other brands, some Sucolors, some polychromes where I needed to save my shadows. And the final problem was when I did background with Kohinoor Mondeluz. They also don't dissolve quite well on this paper. They have lovely colors, but for them maybe there is better to use more textured paper. So areas where I was unhappy with my dissolved Mondeluz, I had to save with huge amount of those drops. Well, not the best work, definitely. Next month I will try to do better. Several months, March, April, May, I felt like I can't do decent work in Teresa Goodrich books. And I was preoccupied a little bit because she's one of my favorite artists. But when I started something, I felt like I don't like very thick lines, like I constantly repeat the same color combos. But in June, I finally did two works which I absolutely love, so my coloring mojo for Teresa Goodrich books is returned and I'm very happy. Let's have a look at the first one. Book is Home Sweet Home, and I did this lovely garden page. Such a cozy area. I wouldn't mind to spend the day in such area myself. Yes, as usual, I exaggerated with amount of colors for flowers, but well, Teresa exaggerated with amount of flowers and I exaggerated with colors for them. But I do love how I did chairs, the table with lemonade, and I do love this windows. Lovely page, and really helped me to return to coloring in Teresa books. But the second one I love a little bit more, and probably it's one of my favorite finished pictures for June. I selected it because we had color along, color with Ukraine, and the same was sea, water and lighthouses. Perfect picture I found in Village Charm. Let me show you my finished work. I was afraid to start doing it because all my previous attempts to do decent work, decent water, decent waves, or lake water in books by Teresa, it never was very successful. My water looked either too dark or without nice waves or ripples, or colors weren't very natural. Well, but this time I think that I really managed to do decent water, and success was to blend blue with greenish colors. Composition here was a little bit complicated because it's like we can see parts of the same village and divided by water. But I think that I managed to do it nicely. I love absolutely all elements here, but I'm proud of this part where I did a lighter water, more transparent near the seashore, deeper water with shadows beneath the boards, and those waves, they also look quite decent. It's all Prismacolor pencils and a little bit of white paint, because we had here this childish son with those rays, like 3 years old. I don't know why she had such elements for such beautifully depicted pages, but white paint almost helped me to cover those strange rays of light which didn't match the style of the page. Well, It definitely go into my list of best finished pictures in Teresa Goodrich books. I'm not very often completely proud of myself, but for this one I definitely am. Well, continuing theme of flowers, let's have a look at A Walk in the Woods by Leila Dewley. It's such a huge book that I need to adjust my camera. And you know, I managed to do 3 pictures here. One was totally out of season, but I wanted to color those hellebore flowers. They usually are so vibrant, so colorful. It's such a fun to select color combos for them. So I decided that I can't wait until the winter season when they usually are more traditional, and I did this one. To color hellebores, it actually was fun. To color white flowers, as usual, it was a challenge. I'm still learning how to do normal white flowers with shading, but still keeping them white. And another one, it's spread. On the left side, very easy but still a very pleasurable coloring. Here I tried to work more carefully, thinking about all the highlights and shadows on the leaves, where leaves, when they have curved edges or deeper shadows in the middle, I tried to show it carefully. I also added some color accents, slightly reddish color near the central vein of the leaf. And on forget-me-not flowers, apart from traditional blue colors, I added a little bit of lilac and lavender to make them more interesting. Here on the right side, I wanted to color irises. They are challenging flowers to color, but they have usually those interesting color mixes like blue and yellow, lilac and violet, sometimes yellow and Bordeaux colors, so they are interesting to color but not very easy. Here I mostly was intimidated by amount of green leaves. I wanted to do flowers but didn't want to spend days and all my green pencils for the leaves. And then I remembered about Derwent Inktense, so I quickly made underpaint on the leaves with Derwent Inktense, on those and on those, and then with polychromasis I added depth to the shadows with Prismacolors, some highlights on the leaves. It really helped me to finish this work much quicker. For flowers I used Prismacolors. It was fun to look at reference pictures. I would never consider myself to add a little bit of ginger root to the central part of flowers. I'm glad that I did 2 lilac, violet and 1 blue iris. I think that in such a way page looks more interesting. When I did my color planning, I selected several pictures in Colorless Kingdom which I wanted to do, but unfortunately when I did this coloring, I did good coloring, but I had problems with my camera, so video which I recorded was of very bad quality, and in such a way I actually messed up several videos. It's a pity. So that's the lady which I did. I still don't know. Do I like this green color? Her dress, it's actually important part of the page, but maybe I selected too intense green colors. It's for the first time I added those light green, permanent green polychromasis. Usually I use slightly darker color palette. This one, it's glowing, so I love this effect, but it distracts all attention from the lady's face and from the rest of the elements. So, well, mixed feelings. Also, I struggled a little bit with the background. Usually markers behave decent on this paper, but here I had some dirty shading. In the end, well, I think that it's not bad, but I was so disappointed by the video quality that it somehow was more important for me comparing to the pleasure from the coloring. Well, maybe next time I will be more careful in color planning. But the lady herself is very lovely. You know that doing two pictures with ladies with darker skin tone, it's a good sign for me. I definitely continue to practice more and to improve my skills. Animals are more safe field, more safe area for me. Finally, I did something in Fragile World by Kirby Razanes. I have here one point of shame because I don't know why, but I still hadn't finished this one. Maybe because I don't know what to do with them. Background here. I can imagine colors, but I don't want to spend time working with pencils, doing this pencil background, not my favorite thing. But one day I will finish it. So let's talk about my June work. And I did this hippo. I wanted to return coloring in this book with something relatively simple, and I decided that this page could be a nice return. I have a lot of reference pictures for hippos because I follow Instagram account of zoo when they have very lovely family of hippos, mother, father, daughter, and recently they have also tiny hippo, very cute. So I had plenty of reference pictures. That's where I got this idea of pinkish areas on the gray skin. It's blend of Prismacolors and Polychromos pencils. I still think that Prismacolor grays, they are much more interesting and versatile comparing to Polychromoses. In Polychromoses, I love Cold Gray number 3, I love Payne's Gray, but apart from it, I think that Prismas are much better. But for the rest of the elements, I mostly worked with Polychromoses. Next, it's Leon's journey. Somehow, when I select projects in this book, I'm always attracted to those collage pages where you need to color smaller projects, and in such way you can finish picture in shorter time. I already did one collage, and in June here we have this sad part of story when Leon spent some nice time with his friend cat Lily, but sadly Lily was brought away by this car, and Leon here tried to chase the car. To make it like parts of the story, of course I used the same colors for Leon's fur and many repeated colors for the grass, for the sky, for some of the flowers. I'm very happy with the paper in this book. Finally, my struggle with blending and layering in Symphony is finished. Paper allows you to do pencil backgrounds with the same pleasure as I had in Manuet or Rhapsody, so paper is really good. What can I say? A lovely page and a lot of fun. Thanks to Kanoko Iguza for doing this new way of smaller pictures united for this one, but maybe one day I will finally do a full-size page in this book. The final work in this video will be in Symphony of Cute Animals. Yes, it's Symphony, but without dust cover. I put it aside to keep it safe because I constantly work in this book, and now I can't find that safe place where I put the dust cover. But that's okay because I continue to work in this book. When I checked my book, I realized that in Symphony I already have plenty of finished spring pictures and plenty of finished winter pictures. So finally it was time to do something in summer part. And what can be more summer comparing to some sunflowers and Tuscany landscape. This landscape, it was one of my favorite pictures since I got the book, but it actually didn't have a landscape behind. And I immediately knew that I wanted to add something between the donkey and the rooster. Then I finally collected some reference pictures which I could use for the landscape. Well, but that was another picture where my video was of the poorest quality. It totally killed my mood for coloring because, well, when you record video and when video is of poor quality, you don't have second chance. I don't have second book, so I wasn't able to repeat it, and it's a pity. But apart from these blogger problems, the final look of the page is really lovely. Well, sometimes I felt that maybe I did too bright background, but it was fun to add this Tuscany landscape with fields, with tiny cypress trees, with tiny buildings. So I think that landscape looks quite okay, even if now poor rooster and donkey, they are slightly lost, surrounded by such vibrant colors. I also had very good practice on doing those oranges and lemons. Lemons were the reason why I finally started this book. I think that now I have some lemon obsession. I also do cross-stitch project, stitching this design with lemons for my kitchen, and I was happy to color those lemons on the landscape. I learned a lot, honestly. But let's have a look page which had more happy ending. This page with sunflowers, another one of my favorite subjects. Here from the beginning I knew color palette. I always loved how this jade green, celadon green work together with blue colors, lighter blue, more intense blue. They all create very good contrast to the yellow and orange colors for the sunflowers. You can see that first I started with more greenish central part of sunflower, then I decided that maybe I want to reverse it a little bit, so the last three I did in slightly different way, and I think that it's even more fun in such way that they have a little bit different central part. I'm proud that they look quite three-dimensional, that I wasn't afraid to add more deep shadows between petals, so you definitely can see which one on the first layer, which are behind, because my previous sunflowers, they looked very flat like pancakes, so it's definitely an improvement. And I love how I did this blue jar. I paid attention to all the reflections, so I have a little bit of green and yellow here. That's what turned it into really more realistic coloring. So despite all the problems and difficult time which I had editing video for this donkey and rooster, and it wasn't successful, so apart from it, I think that this spread, it's one of my best works in the whole book. Maybe I need to do a break for July, but in August I definitely return, because I still want to do more summer pictures before I start to continue autumn part. Lovely book, and you know that I almost adjusted to this paper. Yes, it's a big difference with paper in Leon or paper in Manuet, but still, after some time, mostly working with Prismacolors, I even managed to do this relatively good background without ugly pencil strokes, good blending and good burnishing. So practicing, it's really a very important thing. I would consider my June as quite successful despite all the problems. I would say that I did many lovely pictures and I have learned a lot. I hope that July will be on the same level. Thank you for watching, and until my next videos.